Hey everyone, Nick here from Whole Latte Love. I've got Missy with me today.
Hey guys, glad to be here.
And thank you so much for joining us for today's coffee seminar. So we've got some favorites of ours from Gaggia. We've got the Cadorna and the Magenta, right? If you want to do our little reveal here.
Woo!
And so these are some pretty popular machines that we offer from Gaggia. They're what I would consider to be some of their more modern models, right, Missy?
Right, yes, versus, for example, the Gaggia Anima and
That's
Anima
right.
Prestige, or maybe the Brera.
And so we have an Anima here so that we can actually do a little bit of demonstration, a little compare and contrast for you. But if you're out there and you're wondering, what's a good machine that might help me get through the holidays for some hosting, or maybe you're looking to do a little bit of gifting, that's what we're here to talk about today. So I'm not sure if you're familiar with our coffee casts, but those are a free service we provide where you can book a one-on-one live video session with a member of our team.
It's a Zoom meeting where we can do a demo of the machine in real time, and then you can ask questions. So one-on-one, face-to-face with the machine present.
That's right. And so we're going to be doing more of a live, wider audience version of that. So talking about these two machines in particular. We've got the chat up. If you've got questions, I'm going to be looking down below for them. And just let us know if there's anything you want us to demonstrate. But we're going to kind of go, top to bottom, front to back on these machines, Missy, starting with the Magenta. So
awesome.
With that, I'd say let's get started.
Cool. So first of all, the Gaggia Magenta, Prestige, and the other machines that we have here, they're all super automatics. So that is going to mean that we are putting our beans at the top. There's a built-in grinder, and then on the side there is a brew group. That's going to be your robot barista. So that will brew your coffee for you. And then on these two, they're also going to steam the milk for you. They got a pretty good drink menu, and we'll go through that as well. So if we get a look at the LCD touch display here, we're going to have these buttons right here are touch sensitive.
Capacitive touch.
And then we have our color display.
There we go. Thank you, Will. Alrighty. Yep.
Yeah. So we have a total of 12 options. We've got espresso, a regular coffee, cappuccino, latte, Americano, hot water for tea, and then espresso lungo for a longer shot, a flat white, cafe au lait, ristretto, frost milk, the cortado, and then it will start to repeat. We've got our espresso, coffee, and cappuccino again. Yeah, so we have a total of 12 options on here, and when you select one of these, you have different parameters that you can change, as we call it, on the fly. So I can decide to have a little bit larger of a shot. I can add more milk depending on the cup. And then I can also adjust my temperature and my brew strength. So let's make a latte. So I'd say that's a pretty popular drink.
Seems like that's going to be pretty easy, huh?
Yeah, and that's the thing that I really like about the Magenta Prestige is it is very easy to get authentic Italian milk drinks made for you.
That is one thing worth mentioning. Both of these machines are made actually in Italy. All of our Gaggia products that we carry are made in the Gaggia Montano factory in Italy. So you know where those are coming from.
Yeah. And then as you can see, it's going to heat this milk up. And this drink is going to steam the milk first and then brew the shots over top. So if you have ever had Italian style espresso, or even just your local cafe, let's say you are near a specialty cafe and you like coffee that is a little bit higher of a standard than maybe some chains, this is going to be up to snuff for you.
Absolutely.
Yeah. There we go. So it gives a nice good microfoam on there. It's going to be a little more air added than, let's say, if you steam the milk yourself, but it does a really great job of giving a nice texture to it as well. Yeah. And then, so this is the latte. You could also do a cappuccino and then a flat white with the, or if you're making ice drinks with the ristretto shots, I really like the ristretto for the ice drinks because that's going to give you a more concentrated espresso shot. And that will be nice because it's not going to melt the ice quite as much.
That's
Here
right.
we go.
There we go. No, I'm not fighting with you for
attention.
Attention, that's right. So these are those beautiful Quinto Cast Series glass cups that we have here. And yeah, so this is what we would refer to. I know Missy mentioned these are super automatic espresso machines, but these are what we would refer to as a one-touch super automatic machine, meaning that it will prepare the entire drink start to finish with just one touch. So that's really incredible. You mentioned, Missy, there is some microfoam in there as well as the heated milk. We're seeing that beautiful separation on that latte macchiato there.
Yeah, I love that. And these cups are also available on our website. Also, what I like about the Magenta is it's fairly compact. And then I can, once I make the drink, I can save the setting there, and it will permanently save that setting. As you'll notice, it says quick milk clean. So if I want to, I can say start, and then that is going to be really convenient so that I don't have to take this whole thing apart, wash it by hand each time. I'm just going to let it do its purge, and then it will.
Yeah, it's going to rinse that,
there.
and then you can put the carafe right back in the refrigerator. And so that's going to be one of the first differences really between the Magenta here and our Kadorna is on the Magenta, you program drinks as you make them. So as Missy just mentioned, she was able to save the changes that she made to that latte macchiato. So you'll have to give that a taste and let us know how you like it. It's brewed with some of our Whole Latte Love Crema Wave and some local Wegmans milk.
It's really good. Yeah.
But
nice foamy texture.
Magenta is going to be really good if you've got fewer users. You can certainly customize drinks, but you can only save one version at a time.
Right.
And so, yeah, if there are fewer people who are using it, or you think that you're going to make fewer drinks or maybe customize less frequently, that's one thing to keep in mind for the Magenta there.
Yeah, exactly. So it is going to have a lot of the same drinks as the Kadorna Prestige.
That's right.
It doesn't have the same programmability, which we'll go into. Also, important to note about the Magenta Prestige, it does have doors on the top here. So if you are putting it beneath a cabinet, the Kadorna might be a better fit for you because it does have the
front-loading
reservoir.
with the reservoir, exactly.
Yeah, you may see some similarities between the Magenta and the Anima. They've got a similar frame. They have the
Same
design for the doors. One big difference is going to be that the Anima has espresso, lungo, and then
let's see if we can get a little
water.
closer to the Anima. Missy, I'm going to have to reel her back in onto the frame here.
Oh yeah. Here we go.
All right, there we go.
There we go. Yeah, so we have espresso lungo, and then we have steam and hot water. These are tactile buttons on the Anima. And the Anima's been around for a really long time. It's a great little machine, but I definitely think that the Magenta Prestige, like Nick was saying, is updated in comparison.
Yeah. Do you mind? I'll actually show just a few of those key updates while you've got the Anima up here, though. So let me just sneak in. So first of all, a lot of the programming that's done on the Anima, and so this is going to be true of our Gaggia Anima here, the Gaggia Anima Prestige, the Gaggia Velasca Prestige, the Gaggia Brera. These are from a previous generation. And so you can see right on the front here on our display, we actually have a number of beans. This is an icon that indicates how much coffee is going to be dosed per shot. So as Missy demonstrated on the Magenta, that was something that she could set when it comes to each drink individually. Whereas on this machine, if I make a change to the strength here, that's going to set it for every beverage that the machine brews. And so if you want to get into the water temperature, you would go into the menu. Very first option that you see here is coffee temperature. Same thing, which is that as you set that temperature, that's going to be set for every single drink as well. On modern Gaggia machines, including the Magenta, the Kadorna, and the new Gaggia Academia, that setting is set on a per drink basis, meaning that you can do more to customize each individual drink rather than having a more generalized universal setting. It looks like we have a question actually from Velio J67, coffee amount versus brew strength. So actually, let's see if we can get us back over to the Magenta and we can explain. But Missy, while you work on getting that pulled up here, coffee amount is going to be the amount of liquid that actually is pushed through the ground puck that goes into the brew unit. Brew strength, that's going to refer to how much ground coffee is actually being used to prepare your drink.
Yeah, so your ground coffee is going to be selected here, and then you can also choose pre-ground.
We'll do a little demo on that in just a bit.
And then up here where it says coffee, that is going to be how much liquid espresso is coming out of there. So here we have 40 milliliters, and then we can choose, usually we keep it around like 2 ounces, so you can choose up to 80 milliliters.
Yeah, and you actually can choose between European metric and then also imperial. So that way you'll be able to really just have it display the drink however you like. So my machine, I think, is set to imperial, so you'll see my beverage is all in ounces. But if we go into a couple of the other things, Missy, let's show off some of the cleaning functions that we've got on the Magenta, because this is actually a question that we get a lot from customers, is about how easy is it to clean machines. And so some people do kind of think too that the Super Auto, because it makes the drink automatically, that they don't have to clean it, and you know, it's kind of like anything, you really want to clean everything.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I really like that. For one, automatically it's going to do a purge like we saw earlier. Also, once a month, I recommend doing a deep milk clean. So over here, you can choose deep milk clean. And what you would do is put Ernex Rinza in your carafe.
that's right.
Fill that with water to make a solution, and then you would run that, you'd hit the check mark and run that deep clean cycle. So of course I recommend washing your carafe with soap and water once a week, and then doing a monthly deep clean with this setting.
Yeah, so what are some of our other settings that we've got for cleaning as well?
We have brew group. So I think you have some of those tablets.
I do.
So we can show.
Yeah, we'll do a demo maybe of both the two machines actually to show the difference.
Cool. And then we have descaling as well. And also, in case you want a breakdown of how to do each of these, Nick has some great videos that are in our support library. So definitely check those out. Actually all three of these machines have a support page in our support library that go into depth on that. And then in the settings, obviously you can change language. You can return it to factory settings. You can
turn off that beep actually too.
Yeah. And then your shot counter is there, so it will keep track of like the lifetime shots pulled on the machine. Water hardness is a good one. All these machines are going to come with a test strip. So
that's right.
You will test your water and it'll say basically soft, medium, or hard, and you can let it know what your water settings are, and then
go in there for a sec, Missy, too, just so we can go in a little bit more detail. But you'll see there are 4 squares that are displayed here, and that is the result of your test strip that you get. So it has squares just like that one that you're seeing. You dip that in the water, and once you've given it, I think it's just a few seconds, it will change, and then you program in that result into the machine. And so water hardness is going to basically tell the machine how often it needs to descale. So it uses that water hardness that you programmed in, and then based on the number of drinks that you've prepared, it will alert you that it's time to descale. So that's something that's really important, because if you've got, say for example, really hard water and you're not descaling often enough, that can cause problems. But on the flip side, if you've got pretty good water, you may be descaling too frequently, and you should have just programmed your softer water results. So
yeah,
definitely something to do as soon as you get the machine unboxed.
For sure. I really like that it's going to remind you. So once you set that, and then whether or not you're using a filter, because we have these filters available for purchase separately, that'll help, and then that way it'll help your machine to last a long time as well.
Yeah, this is the Mavia Intenza water filter, so that fits right into your water tank. Now, this will not prevent descaling, but you can tell the machine that the filter is installed, and it will adjust the frequency of the descaling alerts, but it will not, like I said, completely eliminate it. And so Gaggia actually makes their own calibrated liquid decalcifier that you would use in order to actually perform descaling on the machine.
Yeah. Yeah, I also want to show a regular cup of coffee as well.
Yeah, and actually, you know what's something really cool too? Let's get that carafe out of your way. You can actually remove the entire carafe from the machine when you're done, and you can put that in the refrigerator. So if you want, Missy, I'll take that, put that in the fridge for you, and then I'll be right back.
And then this is the hot water spout. So when you don't have your carafe in there, you can have this ready to go. It's also really helpful for if you're making tea, if you're making chai. Sometimes it's just nice to have hot water in your kitchen for instant noodles or whatever you want to make. So yeah, let's do the coffee. And I'm gonna do the ×2 setting, strongest aroma strength. I'm gonna do the max amount of coffee here. So just want you to see the most coffee you can get in one go with this. Pretty good cup height clearance. It's not gonna fit like a really tall travel mug, but it's gonna fit every coffee cup that's in your cabinet for the most part, unless it's like crazy jumbo size.
That's right, and you know, you can fit some travel mugs, like you said.
Like the
not
squatty ones.
Oversized ones for sure, but you know, we'll show off something neat that's a feature on the Magenta too when it comes to cup height as well.
Yeah, so that would fit like a Yeti mug, no problem.
Yeah, and you know, I mean, a lot of people, I think Missy, you said it, just want to know, does the machine make a cup of coffee? And the answer is, for the most part, yes.
Yes, it does. On the Anima, there is not a just plain old coffee button. You can make it happen, but there is some tinkering. You gotta do the Lungo a couple times. So I like that this has just a regular coffee button. Also, I think it's just really a great option if you're looking to upgrade from, let's say, an espresso or a drip coffee maker. It's gonna not take up too much room in the kitchen, but you basically have a miniature cafe menu.
That's right, and you know, one of the things that's really important to remember too is that with a super automatic machine, even if the price tag is a little higher up front, the savings that you make even within the first year of ownership buying whole beans as opposed to a much more expensive format like capsules or pods, the machine will pay for itself very, very quickly, and then you'll still be able to enjoy freshly ground coffee, and probably, if you're really interested, start supporting some local businesses that are roasters too.
Yeah.
So, you know, one thing to mention about these machines though is the drink is called coffee, but it's still going to be brewed using a high pressure espresso brewing process. So there are a few other beverages that we can also make using this machine that we'll show off that will give you that same full cup experience. And now, Missy, you mentioned obviously using the ×2 feature. So what that means is the machine's going to grind and brew that drink twice. Now, that's not every drink. For example, a milk drink will typically only be able to make a single milk drink at a time, but you can use that for what you were showing, which is if you want to get a really tall cup without diluting it, or if you're making 2 drinks at once because you've got a guest.
Yeah, exactly. So you could either have like 2 smaller coffee cups here, or you do the one like jumbo cup of coffee. Also, Nick was touching on the, you know, it's not a regular drip coffee maker, so it is a coffee setting. In my opinion, it's smooth and it's a lot better than most drip coffee makers.
Well, and they're only making drip. I mean, this is just one drink out of, 12, as you said. So. But let's show off the Americano next, Missy, actually, because that's something that was introduced on these machines that I think was really exciting.
Cool. You can grab a cup over there.
I can grab you a cup, yeah.
Cool. And then the difference with the
one,
Americano and the regular cup of coffee. Do you want to take a sip of this one?
I know you will take a sip of this one.
Some black coffee.
Some black coffee. So one thing that's really cool, Will, if we want to get back up to the front of the machine again as well, for the Magenta in particular, was the addition of this cup riser as well. So this is literally just a really nice solid piece of steel, and then that tucks into a slot there. And what that does is for your shorter cups like this one, you can bring them up closer to the spouts, which eliminates splashing as your drink is being made.
Here we go. So we're gonna go to our Americano setting.
This is very hot.
Yeah.
Yeah, so a lot of people too ask how hot the coffee is. There are 3 settings. I would say medium is probably gonna be like ready to drink right away, right? So if you're not putting cream and sugar in and you don't want to wait for it to cool, I would say go with medium, and then you can start sipping on that right away. Or if you've got like a really, really thick cup that's going to soak up a lot of that heat so it gets cooler, then maybe you go with hot. But this is very, very hot.
Cool. And then on the coffee setting,
It is nice.
it's going to do it's going to pull the grounds with the hot water. The coffee grounds are going to be in contact with the hot water the whole time while making this.
That's right.
This one is going to do espresso and then hot water.
Yeah, so if you want to come back to us, Will, for a second, the difference between an Americano and then, say, a long coffee like this is this coffee, as Missy said, was ground, and then all of the water was pulled through those grinds. And so you are going to have the drink get lightened up by the additional water, right? So that's going to remove some of that body, that's going to remove some of that harshness, that strength. But at the same time, you are extracting more and more, and the further you go into the extraction, you do start to pull out some compounds that you may not want from the coffee. On the Americano, as you mentioned, we're pulling the beginning of the shot, if you want to go back to our coffee there, and then it will bypass with water to fill up the rest. So we're getting the best part of our shot, and then we're adding water to it.
Right. So they will taste a little bit different. They are 2 different settings. I know for some folks they'd be like, well, why does it have both? They are going to have a little bit
I'd say that's part of the fun of owning these
profile.
machines, to be honest with you, is the experimentation, seeing what you like. So the Americano obviously was invented for American soldiers over in Italy who weren't used to drinking Italian espresso, right? Because it was a little too strong for them. But you can just see adding water to this beverage here, and that's going to make us our Americano.
Yeah. It's definitely a cute little machine. Very practical. You're getting a lot of drink options in a small package. This is going to be great for a smaller home. Going to have a drink that pretty much everybody in the household will like.
So you've made quite a few drinks now, Missy, and we'll give you a sec to take a sip of your Americano. It's asking us again if we want to save the changes.
Sure.
But for those of you who are unfamiliar with Super Autos, let's go over the anatomy of this machine a little bit. So I know we covered the bean hopper and the water reservoir up top, but now inside the machine there's a component called the brew unit, and so it's going to be the same on our Kadorna that we show you, but basically
a little bit different than G unit.
Oh, yes, definitely a little bit different. So we have our drip tray right here. This catches water both from our spouts, but also internally as well. So even if you use the life hack of putting a cup underneath those spouts, this will fill up eventually because water is produced on the inside. So when we pull this tray out, you'll notice that it runs the full depth of the machine. And now we have a float in here. It's a little red float that will obviously pop up when you have too much water. Hopefully you have taken it out beforehand. But there's 2 buttons on the side of this tray. Press them in, and then you simply pull that out. And then here's the tray assembly, if we want to see that.
Yeah, and that's going to run underneath pretty much the whole machine to catch any excess water that may drip from underneath the brew group, which is totally normal.
Here's our spent pucks that we have here as well inside our drag bin. And then the neat thing is here on the back on the left, you can see that there's actually it's my left now, but it'd be on the right. It's a little point, so it's easier when you take this to the sink to pour out of this particular spot. So we do have a little waste bin here, so I can empty this out for you. And then Missy, go ahead and show us the brew unit.
Yeah, so on the brew unit here, we've got the door that opens on the side. You'll have your serial number there and some information. This is a 110 volt machine. And then we have the brew unit. So let me just move this over so you can see it a little bit better here. So this can be removed. And I'd recommend rinsing this off occasionally. Let's say once a week or so.
Yeah, I was going to say, rather than
water.
Be removed, should be
removed. Yeah, you don't want to just want to keep everything nice and clean, and it's also going to make better coffee.
Will, can we get
when
just
it's
a
nice.
little tighter on this right here? Shout out to Will, who we've got behind the camera. He's doing great. And let me help him out here. So you can see there's some basic reminders that we have in here. So first of all, 7 days, that means every week. Take this out and give it a good rinse. Every 500 drinks that you make, it's recommended that you lubricate the brew unit. So there's included food-safe lubricant that comes with the machine. There's more information on how to do that in the user manual. That's why they have a picture of the manual down there. Question?
Check the manual.
That's right. Or give us a call here at Whole Latte Lab. So another thing is, too, though, that's also indicating, hey, use a cleaning tablet. And so Missy showed you, obviously, how to check the counter on your machine to see how many drinks you've made. So, you know, if you want to maybe put a reminder in your calendar or something like that, check the drinks. Or if you know you make X number of drinks a day, you can kind of figure out, when am I going to get to 500, maybe sooner than you expect.
It looks like we have a question from Russell.
I do have a question,
also.
actually, from Russell. If someone wants decaf, is there any way to change out the beans in the machine? So, Russell, that is a question that many people have asked for many years. The short answer is no, though in my memory, I can recall maybe one Super Auto that had a design where the hopper could come out. So in most cases, and as we'll demonstrate with these machines, they instead use a device called a bypass doser. And so, Will, let's get back up close again, just so we're going back into the anatomy of our machine here, and we can kind of demonstrate sort of where does the coffee go and how does it get to where it's going. So, and if you want to go, actually, let me turn this just a little bit more for you.
Yeah.
And then, Will, let's see if you can just go up just a little bit there. So this chute right here, this is our bypass chute, okay? And there's a path that goes straight down through here, and our grinder assembly is also back here too. So what's happening is you can either load coffee through this chute and it will fall straight down here, or it will be ground from the hopper. So if you have decaf coffee, you can actually load it straight up in there.
Yeah, Nick has this set up for the Kadorna Prestige, so he can.
Yeah. But I'll just show off because I think it is kind of useful for people to be able to see if you want to go back to our close-up there. So I'm just going to hold my hand right down here. And then normally our brew group would be there. My hand was there to catch it instead. And so when you're filling that bypass doser, it's really important that you just use one level scoop. So the scoop that's included with the machine, I've got one right here. You should keep it. Don't lose it, because it also has a key on the bottom, and that key is actually how you adjust your grind setting. So, Missy, let's open up that top there.
All right. I'm just going
I feel compelled
put our
to clean
machine's
for a
pants
moment.
back on here.
And so right in the back, Missy will show you, there's a little yellow post.
Yeah, and basically you're going to push this down and twist it like a pill bottle. You can go right to go finer. When you first get the machine and there's no beans in it, it's much easier to adjust it all the way at once. Otherwise, you do want to make one adjustment at a time and then grind so you don't get big chunks in your grinder.
Yeah.
But yeah, very easy to adjust. My favorite setting, and probably pretty much everybody on staff's, is finest grind setting and the strongest aroma strength.
Yeah.
And that goes for all the supers.
Well, that's a
for the
good
most part.
rule of thumb, because when you're first getting your machine dialed in, your first brewing, your first few shots, you're probably going to want to chuck them, because the grinder needs to basically learn the coffee a little bit. These machines do have something that's called the Gaggia adapting system. And so the way that that works is the grinder gets used to the setting as well as the density of the coffee that you're using. And what it will do is it will help self-adjust so that it runs to be more accurate each time that it doses. And so as a result, your shots will, and your pucks too, will get more consistent and they'll get better. Now, when you're adjusting finer, it's tricky because, to Missy's point, generally speaking, you want to make sure that the grinder is running, which is actually pretty difficult on super autos. So typically you want to set your grind setting about as fine as it goes, the strength as strong as it gets, because it's much easier to reduce and go back than it is to change the grind setting finer and finer. And so typically, though, if you're like a real coffee head like we are, you'll probably want to just go with the finest setting like we recommended.
Yeah, I don't know if I've heard the term coffee head before. I like that.
I feel like I've used it maybe once or twice. I'm not.
Yeah.
Oh, you're just stealing my.
Oh, I was just moving it out of the way because I think we should start looking at this Kadorna Prestige. I know.
Yeah,
I'm
we
excited.
can certainly take a look at the Kadorna Prestige. So, Will's going to move us around, but do we have any questions from anybody? Okay, actually, we've got Will. Looks like I have the Gaggia Anima, which seems very similar. Do the orange gaskets on the brew unit ever need replacing? And if so, does Whole Latte Love sell them? I notice a lack in quality and descaled. Love Gaggia. So, Will, that's a really good question, and I had one right over there that I just took and brought into another room. So, yes, you absolutely want to do that. So let's get this anima opened up one more time. I know we can't give the poor thing a break here, or the
That's okay.
magenta. But just for those of you who are unfamiliar with what Will is talking about, and then our Will, if you want to get us back over here again, there are gaskets inside of the machine and inside of the brew unit, right? So let me try to get you there. So see this red ring? Mm-hmm. So that actually inserts into a water channel inside of the machine, and it seals the group so that you have full extraction pressure. So that's just like a group gasket in a traditional espresso machine. Mm-hmm. So we sell something, Will, called a Gaggia Brew Group Service Kit, and it comes with a set of these red O-rings. And I'm not using hyperbolic language here. We had a customer who left a review who basically said he changed out those seals and it more or less seemed like he had a brand new machine. Because what can happen is you lose pressure, and that water, just like in a brew group on a traditional espresso machine, right? When the group gasket gets older, you have to twist it further and further and further, right? And water can actually sometimes seep down the sides. You'll get more water filling up that drip tray, and you'll have to empty it a lot more, and your shots will be a lot weaker. And so, Will, I'll see if we can get somebody to link that kit in the comments for you so that you can go straight to our site. But it's a simple fix, and that kit also comes with a pipe cleaner and more of the Brew Group lubricant for your machine as well, because you'll probably, if you're keeping up with maintenance, of course, run out of the lubricant that comes with the machine, and you'll need to get more.
And you're welcome, William.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Thanks
Any
for
other
asking.
questions? Otherwise, it will be, I think, Kadorna time.
Yeah, I want to say too, I like that there are replaceable parts in this because there's some, coffee makers out there after a year, maybe two. If there's something wrong, your only option is kind of just to chuck it. So I like that you can just replace some
It's
gaskets.
a very DIY.
Yeah.
And I would say, too, other brands that we carry also make really great products, but they may not be as accessible as the Gaggias when it comes to being able to actually do service and maintenance at home. So the Kadorna was introduced actually around the same time as the Gaggia Magenta. Now, Missy, you mentioned the Magenta and the Anima had the same form factor, which is why the Magenta is actually based on the Anima. Now, the Kadorna was based on Gaggia's Velasca espresso machine. So if you're familiar with that, you'll notice similar design. They've just made it a little bit taller here. So just some key differences while we're getting started. So the Kadorna has front-loading components, meaning that if you've got lower cabinets, right, you do need to be able to lift the top off with the beans here, but that's not too bad, right? But in the front, you can pull out your drag drawer for your spent pucks as well as your water reservoir.
Yeah, and then there's also, if you want something that's a lot shorter with similar features, there is the new Kadorna style too.
That's right. The Kadorna style, that machine doesn't have a carafe like this one, but it does have a auto frothing Panarello style steam wand. Now, you have the same menu of drinks on the Kadorna as you do on the Magenta. The only difference is that this model in particular, the Kadorna Prestige, adds what are called XL drinks. So we have the Latte Macchiato XL and the Cappuccino XL. Those are basically just cappuccinos and latte macchiatos that can dispense even more liquid. So that, I think, was something that was originally desired, I think, by the German market, if I recall my Gaggia history correctly. And so they made the machines extra tall, which is why we have an extra tall carafe here versus the one on the Gaggia Velasca. So the carafe is a little bit nicer here on the Kadorna, so you've got a handle, and so you can lift it off like that. There's a nice little clip that magnetically holds this shut, and you can open it back up again. But really similar functionality. One thing that I want to point out is there is a little tab right on the end of this carafe here. So that tab will jab directly into that front panel on this machine. So whenever you're installing your carafe into your machine, you want to make sure that the arm is open and that it will only be closed when you're putting it back into the refrigerator when you're all done using it. So, well, if you want to get a little bit closer to the screen now, you'll see that unlike the Magenta, which has capacitive touch buttons, the Kadorna has actual rubber physical buttons. So we've got buttons in each corner that correspond to the drinks that are being displayed on the screen, and then you can see the dots in the center that shows you which page you're on, and then of course we've got the left and right arrows that we can use to navigate between the different screens. So a drink, just like on the Magenta, has parameters that we can adjust here, and it's actually all of the same parameters. So we have coffee, which up here actually indicates the amount of liquid that you're going to brew with. Temperature, again, between low, medium, and high. You can make a ×2 drink if you want, and you'll see that indicated by having 2 cups. There's a scoop button here. So the scoop button, that's going to tell the machine that you want to use pre-ground coffee. You can do the same thing on the Magenta, but you simply would cycle through your strength selection. Eventually, when you go past 5, it will put you on the scoop. Now, I see what you're doing there. The last thing that the Kadorna has is it has what's called a favorites menu, right? So we've got the home menu. It takes you back to your drinks. But then you also have my favorites. And so my favorites lets you go to one of 4 profiles that you can save your drinks to. So if you open up these profiles, you'll see there are beverages in here that have been saved, and then you can also add additional beverages. Now, you can add one of each drink to a profile, and eventually you'd obviously need to replace them. But the idea is on the Kadorna, this is a much more robust menu when it comes to somebody who wants to maybe make a lot of different kinds of drinks, right? So yeah, Missy, I mean, I don't know if you have some examples there, but
yeah, let's say you have like a household with 6 people and you have favorites for each person. You could have 4 different profiles. So let's say mom's red, dad's blue, and brother and sister green and yellow. You can have your favorites saved. If there's a particular way that you like your latte, you can have it saved in there by making your changes and then selecting the heart and choosing the profile.
Yeah.
I really like that because a lot of times, for example, on the Magenta, you are going to make those changes on the fly, and you can either save it permanently to the one drink setting, or you can make them on the fly each time. I like that you can save multiple versions of the same drink on here. And that way, it's a little more personalized.
Yeah, and so that's one thing that I do want to say, though, is you have the profiles, but you also have the home menu. And so the home menu, these drinks are never saved, meaning if you ever want to go back to, like, hey, what's the factory default espresso, you would brew it from the home menu.
Yeah.
So if you ever wanted to just see what are the factory default settings, that's always stored in home. Your specific settings, those are going to be stored in your profiles, right? So to Missy's point, you can save a specific version of a drink. But let's say you want some other examples of how you might use that. Well, when I think of green, I tend to think of decaf. So you could say, for example, I'm going to have a My Favorites menu of all the drinks that I've configured to use pre-ground decaf coffee. So that was something that Will in the audience was talking about, but all these drinks that I've saved under my green profile, they're set to use the scoop. So let's say you really like the recipe that you've come up with, but you're like, you know what, I want it in decaf. Well, you can make a menu of just decaf.
That's smart.
Now the blue one, just as another example, I saved all of these drinks to be ×2 drinks. So if you have a guest and you're like, oh, I want to make you a ×2, well, you can go into your menu and then just make it always a ×2 drink. So, you know, it could be that you've got multiple users in the household. It could also be that you've just got people who, you know, have other kinds of programming needs. So let's go ahead and make a drink.
Cool.
It's going to be very similar to the Magenta. So, Missy, I know you said you programmed me a drink in the yellow profile.
It's going to be the Latte XL.
Latte Macchiato XL, so it's going to be on page 2. And so we can edit it, we can delete it, or we can just press the start or stop button, very similar to the Magenta. So basically just press that, and the machine's going to make our drink. And so, yeah, I think I mentioned it, but the Kadorna also has 10 grinder settings as opposed to 5. So you will have that additional layer of customization. Otherwise, the rest of the parameters are going to be the same on this machine versus our
Yeah. Also, the Kadorna has a little cup warmer up here for
little
your
cup surface. Yeah, with a nice stainless up here.
like that.
And then we're about to get our...
Oh yeah, we got our milk going. Yeah, so this one's going to make a bigger latte, or it's capable of making a bigger latte than the Magenta Prestige.
Oh. There we go.
And if anybody has questions, feel free to type those in the chat.
Had me nervous there for a second.
Oh yeah, I made it fill the cup very full.
So that is a question we get a lot, right? It's like, how big are the drinks that it makes?
Yeah. Would you say the cup height clearance is about the same on
It's
these?
going to be very close. That's right. Yes. You know, thank goodness for surface tension though as well.
Oh yeah.
And then we'll let that cascade down. It's beautiful. And so just like on our Magenta, we are going to be asked if we want to do a quick milk clean, which we're going to do. So let's get our cup out of the way there.
Oh jeez. Okay.
And then I'll take your pitcher. Very straightforward though. And that's going to be it. And so I think from there, we're going to go into how to clean the machine as well. Oh, you want to take a little sip out of this one maybe?
Sure. A lot of good foam on top.
Yeah, and so that amount of separation is already kind of programmed into the machine.
Yeah.
Certain drinks too, like the flat white, will grind and brew twice. So when we're done with this, we can simply remove the carafe, and then actually both machines have a water spout that fits into this socket so that you don't have to have the socket exposed when you're done making milk drinks. And then when you choose to dispense hot water, it will actually flow straight out of here.
Yeah, this would also be a great drink for some flavor syrups. It'd be pretty popular.
Yeah, we just added Hollander.
Yeah, exactly.
So if you're shopping right now during our
Free gifts with purchase.
is it Black Friday already?
Yeah, pretty much.
More or less, we're including a Hollander cafe sauce with Gaggia espresso machines for a limited time. So they are very good.
Yeah, they're really good. I would recommend adding it to the bottom of the cup before you brew, and then that way it'll kind of melt it with the espresso shots or the milk or what have you.
Yes. So let's show off some cleaning though as well. So similar to the Magenta, we do have a clean and settings menu here. So they're divided up between obviously cleaning and settings. So we've got the same options as you saw on the Magenta, but in this case we are going to walk through a brew group clean. So the machine estimates it's going to take about 5 minutes here. I don't think it really is going to take that long, but we're going to use our Gaggia, I was holding them up, there we go, cleaning tablets, okay? So these are just a formulated tablet that's designed to break down coffee oils that get deposited over time. And so for those of you watching who've heard us talk about descaling, and now we're talking about cleaning the brew group, that's a little bit like on a traditional espresso machine as well, where you might descale, like a Gaggia Classic, for example.
Yeah.
But you might also back flush a Gaggia Classic, right?
Right.
Descaling is about breaking down mineral content that builds up inside the machine that can coat the boiler, and it can also block passages that water flows through. Brew group cleaning, that's everything that's happening where your coffee is brewed all the way up until out of the spouts. So that's helping to clean old built up coffee oils that are in there. So it's just like if you have a coffee pot and you ever look in it and it's kind of, gross on the bottom.
Yeah, you're going to want to wash your coffee pot.
That's right.
You're going to want to run these tablets through so that you don't have those rancid coffee oils building up. This is going to keep the coffee tasting good.
So
and like Nick said,
the water tank. So
yeah, like
letting us know.
Like Nick was saying, the descale and the brew group cleaning are two different processes, and then the milk one is a different process as well.
And so you drop that tablet straight into the bypass toaster because, as we saw, that's going to fall directly into the brew unit. Placing our container underneath, and it's basically just going to clean now the machine. So on the Gaggia Anima that we looked at before, and on Gaggia's other older espresso machines, they don't have this kind of programmed cleaning menu. And so what that means is you typically would want to, you'd put your tablet in using a blank shot, which is where you use the pre-ground setting, but you just don't put any coffee in.
Yeah.
And then you actually unplug the machine and shut it off so that the oils have time to act inside the brew group and clean everything out. And then you start the machine up again and it begins to rinse. And so that's one of the things I think that was a really nice update, a nice feature on the Kadorna Prestige and on the Magenta as well.
Yeah, I like that these are going to make making your coffee really easy with minimal effort. Also, the cleaning takes minimal effort.
That's right.
Yeah. I would say I like the system and ecosystem of how you do the cleaning and maintenance on the Gaggias. I highly prefer it to some other Super Auto brands that maybe you have to get proprietary tablets. You can just use Ernex super tablets with this as well.
Yeah, so if you've heard of Ernex Cafiza, they have a Cafiza Super Auto cleaning tablet as well that you can get as a sort of third-party option as well.
Yeah.
And this pause is intentional, so the machine is letting the oils work to soak in. That's why on the other machine you would have to shut it off. And then obviously you want to make sure that you give it a good rinse. I'll do that because then I'll show you as kind of our final trick here how you'd brew with pre-ground decaf coffee. So do we have any other questions from anybody who's watching about these or maybe even some other machines as well? And I think we had some questions, from Ron and Cynthia at the beginning. I know they said that they had an issue where their grinder was spraying. That sounds like an issue with static. If it's a grind by weight, probably like Baratza Sete, I would imagine.
It's either the Baratza Sete 270
the 270,
WI.
maybe the W, because there was a W before the WI. I know they said that they don't know if it's available anymore. So we want to add a little bit of water. So Missy, if you could go just get me a little bit of water. So that's where our reservoir pulls out. And while Missy's doing that, I'll show you as well. Just like on the Magenta, the Kadorna can accommodate shorter cups as well. It has a platform right below that pulls out. And if you're as old as me, you may remember floppy disks. I feel like this reminds me just a little bit of a floppy disk, and then you just can slide that right back in. But it's a really nice feature. There's cutouts in there as well for liquid to actually fall directly into the drip tray. And so there we go. We're just going to add a little bit more water now.
Important to note too, when you first get your machine, you do want to apply the food safe lubricant to the joint here at
just a little bit,
at the water reservoir. Make sure it goes in nicely. And then with this one, we're finishing up our brew group clean.
That's right. We'll just hit resume there.
Okay.
And it looks like we don't have any more questions. So yeah, I'd say let's go ahead. We'll finish up this cleaning cycle, and then we'll make some decaf.
Cool.
So, Missy, actually, you got a Magenta for some of your relatives, didn't you?
I did, yeah. I ended up getting the Magenta Prestige for my brother and his fiance, and they love it. They had just visited Italy, and they wanted some better coffee than they were finding in the States, and they were upgrading from their Nespresso. So, yeah, they love it because it is, it's not going to be as hands-on as a semi-automatic. Much easier to use.
Do they make a lot of the milk drinks?
Yeah, yeah. They make the flat whites and just regular coffee as well.
So, I mean, for me, I feel like the Americano is kind of my go-to drink, whether I'm drinking it from a super auto or from a traditional semi-automatic machine as well. I just really like getting that, kind of the best part of the shot, right?
Yeah.
And it's a little bit like a ristretto too, almost.
I do really like the ristrettos on both these machines. Great for ice drinks.
And so, for those of you who are considering a super auto for this holiday, coming up, we do have in our best of series, if you've been watching on our YouTube channel, our best of super automatics. So I would keep your eyes peeled for that. I know tomorrow I think we're doing a demo of the ECM Mechanica Max. That's going to be, I want to say it's with Steve and Zach. It might be.
Well, it'll be listed under live on our YouTube channel on the homepage.
Yeah, and so again, these pauses are just to rinse and let those oils work. So, Missy, I'll tell you, while we're doing that, why don't we use the Magenta actually to demo our pre-ground there.
Sure.
And so I pre-ground a little
espresso?
bit before. Yeah, you could do an espresso. You could do really whatever you want, but do you have your scoop over there?
I do have a scoop.
Perfect, yeah. So again, really important, this included scoop here, if you ever exceed more than one level scoop, there's a chance that in the group, it's going to overpressurize, and then basically it's going to kick that shot out into the bin, and then you're going to have to start all over. So it's important that you don't overfill. You really want to use an espresso grind for the coffee as well. So if you're looking for coffees at the grocery store or buying online, you want to make sure that it's something that's going to be a grind that's appropriate for espresso. And so, Missy, there you go. You've loaded up the bypass toaster for us. And then if we want to get on close on the screen, Will, we can show actually what I was talking about, how on our little wheel that we have there, you actually see the scoop icon right there. So.
Yeah, so just hitting that until I see the scoop icon. We'll leave it at the default here.
And so I did pre-grind this coffee before our live stream today, so I have the advantage of having access to as many beans and grinders as I want. So, the extraction that you get is going to come down to the coffee that you use too. So if you've got, let's say you get a guest, right? I'm not saying this is any of you at home, but let's say you have a guest and they want a decaf and you have an old can that's been sitting in your cupboard for maybe a little longer than it should. Well, your shot's not going to pull too well if you're using that in your machine. So really it's going to be, the quality of your coffee does come down to the quality of either the beans or the ground coffee that you put into it. And so using whole beans ground fresh is definitely going to be the best way to enjoy your coffee for sure. But if you're using pre-ground, you could still be using fresher pre-ground and enjoy a superior quality product.
Yeah, so we got a good crema on here. This was freshly ground decaf with an espresso grinder, but you can buy some store-bought decaf to have on hand if you need to.
That's right.
Yeah.
All right, well, it looks like we don't have any other questions, so I'll tell you what, Missy, I've been sipping on this, but we'll cheers to a successful stream. But thank you all so much for joining us. We've got more live streams coming for you the rest of this week, and we're gearing up for a really exciting holiday season, so if you've got any questions or there's anything else we can help you with, we've got our coffee cast. We have a new feature called Barista Assist. If you have a machine and you're just not really quite sure how to get started with it, we've got live tech support and troubleshooting as well. So really, there's no better place to go for everything coffee this holiday season other than Whole Latte Love.
Yeah, and we do have our chat open as well.
That's right, live chat. So everybody, I'm Nick.
And I'm Missy.
Thank you so much for joining us. Have a great rest of your day.